Hello and welcome back. This is the Clay Golem. This is Foundry VTT, and this video we are looking at a new mod by Ripper. And I say new mod because it is new, so new that you can't get it quite yet. Ripper's very kindly sent me a key so that I can access it and show you guys what it is. Before we do that though, I want to bring you up to speed with a couple of other pieces of information just to make sure we're all on the same page. First of all, live streaming on Sundays between 7 and 8, that's British summertime. Was supposed to start this Sunday coming up, just in, it's going to be tomorrow by the time this video is released. Unfortunately, due to work commitments, that has had to be rescheduled, so that will kick off on the 29th of June. In that, we are building Phandelver and below from absolute basics. It's a series that is aimed at people completely new to Foundry to start building adventures, how the maps work, how to do lighting and things like that, creating NPCs, all of that good stuff. But you don't need to be new to Foundry. Come and join us. That'll be great. I will be asking for your input, your ideas. We've got player characters that we want to create, a bank of player characters. I want your input for that and stuff like that. So come along, have a chat. We can do a bit of a Q&A as we go, and you can help me out with some advice and things like that, you know, other ways to do things. That leads me directly on to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is start playing. I'm not going to talk loads about start playing. I will talk about that in the live stream, which is why we're kind of building Phandelver. But I'm doing a thing. So DM Travis and myself are doing a webinar. This is going to be on July the 2nd. That's going to be 6 p.m. That's Wednesday, July the 2nd at 6 p.m. British summertime. Obviously, that will be available wherever you are in the world. And we're just going to be talking about all things Foundry. So there will be a link in the description for this video to bring you to this page if you want to come and sign up for that webinar. It's 100% free. There's no obligation and things, but we're going to just be talking about, you know, Foundry, how it works, why you might want to choose Foundry, some of our favorite mods, all sorts of things like that. I will also link in the description a survey form that you can go and fill in if you're coming to the webinar, just giving us a bit of details and things, if there's specific areas that you would like us to cover and talk about. And even though it's aimed at people quite new to Foundry, if you are already pretty handy with Foundry, and I know lots of you guys are, and there's lots of things you can do much better than I can, which isn't difficult. But if you want to participate in this, we are going to have some breakout rooms for you guys to, if you wish to host your own little breakout room to be able to show off what you've done in Foundry, some of your whizzy stuff. Maybe you've written macros to do certain things, etc. You'll have the opportunity to do that. So links for that is in the description for this video. Shall we get on with the actual content, yeah? Okay, let's go back to Foundry. Now, point out a couple of things about this. This is, as I mentioned, it's a brand new module. It's called Simple Timekeeping. So for those of you who've got things like, oh, I've got Simple Calendar and things like that, this is an instead of rather than an adds to kind of mod. So you might choose to use this instead of that. And you're already looking at the screen, and you can see at the top of the screen, it's a bit dim at the moment. Let me just make this daytime to make that screen a bit brighter for you. Now, it's not released yet, so you can't find it, but it is a premium mod. If you are a patron of Ripper, at the moment you can't get it. If you have a higher tier patron of Ripper's, you have early access to his mods as he kind of releases them. And then you will have access to it. Having said that, I don't. I just have the base level patron for Rippers and have had for well over a year because I use his mods a lot and I like to support people where I can. So Rippers very kindly sent me a key so that I can look at this even though it's not released. Okay, so Ripper has said, hey, look, I'll give you a key. Go and have a play, do a video on it. That would be great. But Ripper's aware that I'm not going to just say it's brilliant because he's asked me to say it's brilliant. All right, that's not the way I operate at all. Now, things are happening in the background. The lighting keeps changing. I just made it really bright and it's gone really dark again. What the heck is that about, you're thinking? At the top of the screen, I'm going to let me just make this. I'm going to make this midday for a second. There we go. That will bring it up lighter. At the top of the screen here, if I hover over it, it will make it a bit brighter. You can see that we have a calendar with a whole bunch of instructions and settings and things like that. In essence, this is what it does, but because it's Ripper stuff, not only is it really simple to use, but it's actually really powerful too. And this is what I do love about Ripper stuff. It tends to be very crisp, it looks good, and it's got really powerful functionality, but you don't kind of realize how powerful it is because it's so simple to look at. Very, very simple tools across the top. I mean, you can see that there's some kind of calendar here. We can skip back an entire day. We can skip back an entire hour. And as you can see, control 30 minutes, shift 10 minutes. We can hold alt to go 5 minutes. So you can scan through time during the day backwards and forwards. So that's what this does. It tracks the time within your game. So like I say, Simple Calendar does a similar kind of job. I find Simple Calendar a little bit clunky, and I don't particularly like the look of it. I find it's quite intrusive. This one, it hides at the top. It's there. It's really easy to see. As long as I'm hovering on it, it's nice and easy. What other controls do we have in here? Well, we can click a button to set it to sunrise. Now you can already see that the screen is dimming, and that light just came on as well. Okay, that's not connected with this mod. That's core Foundry. When it gets a certain darkness level, that light comes on. Okay, that's core Foundry. If you're not sure how to do that, I can show you another time. Or that will be in other videos. Actually, that will definitely be covered in the live stream. Come and join me for the live stream. So we can set it to sunrise. We can also set it to midday. And what that's doing is it's jumping that clock forward to the next sunrise, to the next midday. You can see as it's got brighter, my torch has gone off and it's now approaching midday. So it's much lighter. The next one here is events. So like Simple Calendar, this does have a series of events. You notice that red dot just appeared. If I go back a day, that red dot has disappeared again. So we can schedule in any events that we want, and we'll look at that a little bit clearer in a moment. We have actually what the date is here. So this is the second day to Hammer, year 0. We've got we're on day 1, and it's currently, remember, I just clicked to set it to noon, so the time is 12. Well, it's now 12:10 because time is ticking on. So while I was doing that preamble and talking about you know, the live stream and things, the lighting was changing in the background because time is moving forward because the game's not paused. It's doing it automatically for us. We'll come to that. We have the phases of the moon here. So at the moment we've got Saloon, the new moon, and we've got weather in here as well. Currently the weather is clear. We got some settings that we'll look at. We also can click a button to straight away take us to sunset, which is nice. You'll notice it's getting dimmer straight away. And because I've crossed that darkness threshold, that light, in fact, all of the lights in this scene, well, the ones that I bothered to set up, have all come on because it's now dim. We've got this extra button for midnight, so that's going to change it to be completely dark. And of course, I can then come and make it sunrise and then take it back to midday once more. So I can do that nice and easily. Come on, hurry up, brighten. There we go, much nicer. And the last two controls we've got on the end here is to advance our time by 1 hour or 30 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, depending whether you hold control, shift or alt. So we can move time quite small in a granular way, but we can also advance an entire day. So very simply, that's what it does. You can see nice and clear and easy peasy. Let's dig in a little bit deeper, of course. All right, so let's look at these events here. You can put any event in that you like. You put in when that event starts, so what year is that starting, what is the month, what is the day of the month, what time it starts and minutes, and of course when it finishes as well. You could have it repeat. It repeats every day, every week, every month or every year. Now of course a lot of calendar things are every year, so you can obviously do those and put those in if you want to. Once that's confirmed, you've got a journal page, so you can write what that event is. Anything you want to call it, you know, let's call it event 2 and a description. Whoops, if I can click, a description of what that actual event is, so all the details you might need. I can save that, of course, and you can see I've now got 2 events in my calendar, which have got the full date range and things like that. Now I'm in year 0, so you know that's not great because I haven't set my year yet. I will do that. Now what happens if I just if I click calendar to shrink that again, you will have noticed which direction did I go. If I move forward a day, if I go through the hours, it's going to try and keep up. You can see it's going darker, it's going to go lighter again. And when I hit bam, did you see the red button here just popped up? And the reason why is because that event I've just hit, so it's underlined to say this event is now active. It kicked off at 9 o'clock on this particular day, because that's where I've got my information. Here's some information about this festival and common practices. So I'm going to list all of that stuff in there for Festival of the Drake, which I just made up for this purposes. So you can schedule as many things as you like in there, and it will give you that little reminder. It's like, by the way, you've hit that day. Really, really useful. Now, as you know, I am running Curse of Strad, and Curse of Strad has a number of different things that happen throughout that. There's the moon phases and things like that that are really quite important to that. And I found, personally, Simple Calendar will 100% will do the job, but it's not particularly slick and beautiful. For me, this is a much nicer interface, a much smoother process for that, just to give me like, oh yeah, that's right, that's happening. I need to make sure that, you know, the festival of the sun, the full moon, so key events like that that the players would be aware of, you can pop them in there, which is really, really useful. And of course you might put in things that relate to deadlines, to quests. You have to have this done by that time. You know, if you haven't rescued the princess by this time, you know, apparently according to local legend she'll be eaten by the dragon, blah 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 blah. So you can put those things in, which is really cool. I like that. Now, with regards to the fact that this says it's the third day, third day, so the 3rd of Hammer, so the 3rd day of the month of Hammer, you're going to want to be able to change those. So let's have a little look at the settings in here. Now, we do have, ignore the weather and stuff like that at the moment, okay? We're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to a lot of these things. But we can change that calendar itself by clicking on Calendar, and you'll notice that this has already got built in a ton of different calendars. So I'm using the Forgotten Realms calendar, maybe you're using the Eberron calendar or the Greyhawk, and you can change it that quickly. So now it is actually Moon Day, 3rd of Fireseek. So it will update those for you, which is really, really cool just by changing that calendar. Now, of course, you're not going to change the calendar. You're going to set it for your game and it's going to stay the same, right? You can also make your own calendars for this. So you don't need to, I mean, most people, they would go, well, I'll just use a, even if it's your own campaign world, you might just use an existing calendar. They would go, I'm going to use the Pathfinder calendar. All right, so you can use those ones anyway. But there is, of course, because it's Ripper, there is a wiki. And the wiki is really good because all of his wikis are. Bear in mind, this isn't released yet, and the wiki is a complete wiki, complete help. Sample calendars. It's talking to you about the fact that this is, and we've looked at this one's already built in, but it's giving you all of the, let's use the word code, the script, for how that is created with all of those various events and things like that. You know, we've got the midsummer and stuff like that. So it's showing you how to create these. There we go. So that's that first month we started in Hammer. It's got, it's got 30 days in it, etc. So that's all in here already. So you can just copy this and then change it to meet your needs. Okay, so you can do that whatever you want. But if we scroll down, there's the Eberron one. There we go. We've got all of them are in here. So he's provided you with all of these templates. So if you find a calendar that is kind of what you want, but not quite, well, he's given you the stuff. There's the Greyhawk one. Brilliant. I'm going to nick that, and mine's not called Fireseek. I'm going to change the name of it. I can change my abbreviations and everything else, and you can build your own calendar and then you can use that to bring directly in here. Now this is not about how to exactly do that, but the wiki will tell you. So that is pretty cool. We can change these as much as we like. Very, very nice. Now you will have noticed when we were looking at some of the mod settings there that there's a whole bunch of things we can change. One thing I do want to show you is where this says clear. If we click on this, this is your weather. Now Foundry only has a certain amount of weather functions currently built into it, but if we pick cloudy, it's not really going to change anything. If we pick rain, it's going to pick up the Foundry weather effect and give us rain. If I pick drizzle, okay, the closest effect to that is rain, so we're going to get that. We can put fog, of course, we've got fog in Foundry, so it's going to make a match to the closest thing it can find in Foundry to do that. Now I'm hoping that not too long away, Gambit's been working on a little project that he's sent me an alpha for to me to have a look at and a play with, and that will probably be the next mod video. I am hoping that we are potentially going to be able to tie these two mods together, and let's face it, both Gambit and Ripper stuff is really good, and if I say to Gambit, hey, I can't quite get this to work, the chances are he will help make sure that we can combine the two. And more of that in the future. I'm getting overexcited. But, you know, we can pick snow. There we go. We've got our snow and stuff like that. Now, some of these are things like arcane fog. Well, we've only got the one fog setting. Wouldn't that be nice if that was a different coloured fog? At the moment, Core Foundry doesn't give us that ability to do coloured fogs and things like that. What Gambit is working on may well do. He might smack me around for saying that and potentially making promises for him to keep. I'm not, honest buddy, I'm not. But I know you're working on particle effect stuff. So lots of different things we can choose in here, which is really, really nice. Let's go back to those settings. And when I look at environment in those settings, we can change things like the color tints for the day and night, but we can set when that day and night kicks in. So regardless of what the weather is doing, we also have control over the dawn and dusk when it changes those light settings. So you can see it's setting darkness at dawn to 0.23. You can change it. You can make your dawns brighter or darker. Dusk, you can make your dusk darker or brighter. But you can also use latitude. Now it tells you about what latitude means here. So depending, I mean, and you guys know this, real world latitude, right? The further you are north or the further you are south, the more extreme the lighting changes between summer and winter, right? I'm in the UK, and we get an awful lot more darkness in winter than we do in summer. We get night at the moment. It is kind of, you know, beginning of summer at the moment. We're approaching the equinox. What is it, 10 o'clock? It's still quite light outside, you know, lovely jubbly, very nice. Conversely, 4 o'clock in midwinter and it's already dark. So, you know, we get that. That's what this is talking about. So you can say that if the latitude is different from 0, dusk and dawn values will be ignored and instead dynamically calculated based on that latitude. In other words, if you're in winter, your days will be shorter, and if you're in summer, your days will be longer. How amazing is that, that this is supported? Yeah. Now there is some information here about climate data where you can put stuff in, and it says that, you know, a JSON file of the definition of the weather and temperature generation. So again, that's a wiki thing, that's an advanced thing. We're not going to cover that in this video, but there are these options built in for you to take this to the next level and make this quite an extreme automated weather process, lighting process if you want to. Talking of weather automation, if we go to automation over here, we've got some options specifically talking about that weather. Synced darkness and weather, so you can sync those together. In other words, if you've said, oh, it's stormy, is it going to change the lighting based on that? You can sync or don't sync. Do you want to sync the moon badge? So if moons are defined in the calendar, simple timekeeping will automatically update the moon badge. Chances are you'd want that. Do you want it to generate weather? Now this, I think, is magic. I'm not sure how much I would use it. I'm going to have to play with it a lot more, and I'm going to have to run games using it. But you can actually say, oh, well, I'm Celsius, I'm in the UK. I say, yes, generate weather and temperature. If I confirm that, as I move through a day, it's going to automatically choose what the weather is today. Today is a thunderstorm, and it's 27 degrees Celsius. Today it's foggy, it's 32 degrees Celsius. It's now raining, 32 degrees. It's raining, 29 degrees. Thunderstorm, 26 degrees. So that were partially cloudy, 33 degrees. So it will kind of generate that weather, and it's from everything I've looked at, it's seasonal based. So if you're in your winter months, you're more likely to get snow and things like that, you know, and your temperatures will be lower. 100% up to you, of course, whether you use that. You can obviously just manually select whatever you want as well. But I thought that was really, really nice to have that built in. So you can choose what you do about your weather, whether you randomize it, whether you sync that with regard to the darkness. You can choose your calendar, including full customization. You can set your longitude, latitude, when dusk is, when dawn is. You can set those all yourselves. This is automation of time. So as I said, time is ticking away in the background at the moment because I'm unpaused. You can set how quickly that time goes forward. So at the moment, every second of real time counts as 10 seconds in game time. So, and that's the default for it. So the longer I'm sitting here talking, that time, it's now just gone 10 past 12 up there. 10 minutes has just passed because I'm not paused and I'm just yakking away to you. So you can have that if you want to. You don't have to. You can have that turned off. You know, set it to 0 or set it to whatever you want. You can set it to 1 if you want. So 1 real world second equals 1 real world second, or sorry, 1 game time second, if that's what you want to do. And of course, what I didn't do is I didn't set the calendar year. Let's say it's 963. I'm going to choose that year. Is that today? Fine, leave the time as it is. So I can set my current date from here as well. So whenever your adventure or campaign is starting, you can set that. Brilliant, lovely jubbly, and then you can use your controls to move the calendar forward. Now obviously, you know, something happened, you need to move it back, you can do, but normally you would be advancing. You know, maybe you'd be using hours and stuff. If they have a rest, you know, you're just going to advance it by an hour because they've sat there and done nothing as a short rest, etc. You can easily do that. Now for these aspects, so it's giving you this this ability to update things like your colors based on the seasons and things like that, which is really nice. So it's got some defaults in there. Do you want wide letter spacing? Do you want mono space font? And do you want to hide the calendar during combat? You'll have to decide. I use Combat Carousel, which is also, you know, supported by Ripper. They're both going to be at the top of the screen, so I would be hiding that. And I might turn that off. Let's turn those off to see what that looks like. There we go. That's just shrunk that significantly because we've got rid of all that extra spacing. Doesn't look quite so good, does it? But it is taking up less space. So you decide how you want those to work. You know, there we go. That's made it slightly bigger because of, you know, how I've set that. So you can decide how you want those things to work, how you want that to look, your weather color, your moon phases, etc. Loads of stuff that you can do in here with regard to labels, etc. So I mean, it's something you can really come in and have a play with. What's all this custom badge stuff? Well, let's pop back to the wiki, because as I said, the wiki's just amazing because it's Ripper's, where he talks about all of the different things here. Now, if you look on the right hand side here, you know, this is simple timekeeping. It is only available for version 13 when it releases. Important to note. So a lot of you aren't moving yet. When you do, it is only version 13. But this will take you through. This is basic stuff that I've already gone through, configuring, etc. All your management controls, that is all in here. But it talks about that badge system. It talks about how to use those. But you can see on the right hand side here, you know, the troubleshooting's in here, the APIs, you're using those badges. So I've shown you the real basics of how it works. What you can do with it is basic functionality. We looked at the fact that it's got built-in default calendars. The wiki will take you to those next steps, and the wiki will talk about, I mentioned about tying in other weather effects with those ones within the simple timekeeping, right? And I mentioned about Gambit. Well, this is what this is about. So we're talking about APIs and things like that in here, about how you can use those APIs, which is basically a little bit of scripting to get these things to talk to each other. So all of that information is in here. You can actually use anything you want. Custom climate data. Okay, so we talked about that. That's got stuff in here as well. So everything you need to know basically is all within the wiki. Right. So what do you think? Is this potentially... I'm sorry, just mentioned about the API. I ought to point out that this, because of its API, it will talk to other modules that deal with time. What I have not done yet, because it's not available in version 13, is I have not said, well, if I'm using MIDI to control certain things like spell effects that last an hour, will they talk to each other? By default, probably not, but because of the APIs that both of those different products have, the answer will be, can they? Yes, they can. The question will be how simple. But MIDI's not version 13 yet. Ripper's ahead. So, does Ripper's talk to others? Yes, it does. But we don't know if we can necessarily do those easily and smoothly, because we don't want to spend ages doing loads of scripting, because for a lot of us, that is not one of the skills that we currently have. So, for version 13... I think I will probably use this as part of my Fandelver campaign that I'm only building in version 13 that I've talked about doing on the live stream. I will not be including mods as the basic building, but as we introduce mods, this is kind of the likely one that I would use for running that particular campaign. Because it's really simple, it's really clear how it works. From a player's perspective, it's not cluttering up their screen, it's just there. I love the fact that we can automatically hide it in combat. For me, that's a real big thing, because I do use Carousel Combat Tracker, which obviously for me sits right at the top there, and it would get in the way, so we're not overlapping those things. So when we think about the modules we've looked at recently, the Caligian, I've said that wrong again, UI, which gives us that ability to even further enhance the version 13 look and feel. We've looked at the BG3, the Baldur's Gate 3 UI that enables us to use that Baldur's Gate type interfaces for our actors and things. We've got the Carousel Combat Tracker, and we've got this simple timekeeping mod. Those together are suddenly giving a lot of flexibility of how we set up our games for our players' visual enjoyment, just from an interfacing point of view. Really, really nice. We've got a lovely little group of packages purely about that kind of aspect of it. So I'm really happy about that. I like the version 13 changes to the UI. I know they're not massive and dramatic, but we have got a bit more control. And that I really, really like. So combined with those other factors, we end up with a really nice, slick kind of group of things working together. Right, so the end of the video, you can tell it's the end of the video because I'm starting to ramble and I'm starting to talk about other things, not just this core stuff. What do you think? I know a lot of you are not in version 13 yet, and this mod is not yet available, even if you are a standard patron. Would you use it? Do you like it? I personally, yes, it's a no-brainer for me. Leave a like, leave a comment. Of course, if you're not subscribed to this video, to this channel, please do so. It really does make a huge, huge difference to my motivation to keep doing videos and moving forward. It shows me what kind of things you guys want to see, along with your comments and stuff like that. Take care. Have a good one. I will see you very soon in the webinar. And in the live stream next Sunday. Take care, everyone. Hello.